Today, I want to talk about money habits that we need to start implementing immediately. Hello, everyone. It's Rick here with goodincomestreams.com and the author of Invest Like the Rich. Now, money habits that we want to start implementing immediately is a way for us to go into financial independence. And the first one is going to be paying yourself first. Paying yourself first can be confusing to some people, but if you have read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, it mentions that we should set aside money before we pay anything else. So we're always taught that when you get your paycheck, you pay all your bills and whatever's left is yours. Well, on this one, it's flipped. It's the other way around. Instead of paying the bills first, you are going to pay yourself first. So it can be in any amount. It can be like 10% of your paycheck, 5%, 30%, up to you. Something that you can comfortably work on. I don't expect you to set aside 50% of your paycheck to invest and now you're struggling to pay all your bills or you end up homeless. This one is something where you can afford. So for me, I first started, I do believe when I started this, it was only like 1 or 2% when in the very beginning. I started setting aside money and I eventually grew it to like 5, then at 10, then more. Now it's at the point where I always have that money set aside no matter what. And for you, like I said, it can be any amount, anything from as little as 1% to as high as 50% if you want. Now, some people will be like, well, how am I going to pay my bills if I pay myself first? Because my check is just enough to pay for everything, pay for all the bills. Well, a secret or a trick that was taught to me was that get a part-time job, right? Well, for me, I didn't get a part-time job. Instead, because I had skills, I applied my skills. So for me, I'm a plumber. Not was, but I am a plumber. I'm a licensed plumber here in Hawaii. So I've had several years of experience. And even in the very beginning, while I was still learning, I was applying this outside. So people learned that I knew how to do plumbing and they would ask me questions. And then the next thing you know, they would ask me to come over and help them fix. Like they have a leaky faucet and it was relatively simple. I just change the gaskets and I make a few bucks. So like a few weeks ago, I had a friend, a family friend that asked me to fix their water heater because it was leaking. Fairly simple. Just drain it out, switch it out, and make a couple $100. Uh, Maybe it's not life-changing, but it's something nice, extra cash I can always use, and that's just little a little way to make some side hustle money. So if you have any type of skills, even if it's like writing, you can go on Fiverr.com or some of these other freelance websites and you can do some work that way. And I have a video about starting any kind of freelance work. I'll leave the link up to here and on the bottom as well. And there are so many ways to make cash. Like I make extra side hustle money. So that way you can keep paying yourself first. And then even if you're short on your check, because you have a side hustle or something that comes in, then you can use that to help pay for the difference. And this way you can start building up money for your financial independence. Now, the second one is that you're going to automate everything. So what do I mean by automate everything? So have you ever heard of the word out of sight, out of mind? Well, same thing. If you are a direct deposit person or you get direct deposit from your work, then you can simply ask your payroll or your HR to set aside a certain percentage of your check into these different bank accounts. So let's just say everything goes to bank account A. Well, now you open another bank account and then now you're going to tell them, well, can you take like 5% of my check and deposit it into this account? So you might have to fill out some paperwork. And I've done this several times in the past. The only thing that might happen is some companies will not allow a percentage. Instead, they do dollar amounts. So I actually had to deal with that one time. And there could be different variants. But if you're able to automate everything where the checks are split up into the different bank accounts that you have set up, then that way you can just have everything automatically deposited, then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to see it, and then you won't be like, wait, I have this much money in here or whatever, right? So automate is always the best way. Now, the third one is going to be to open a bank account that's not easily accessible. Now, what do I mean by that? So let's just say you go to bank A, right? So this bank is where you've been doing all your transactions year in, year out. This is where your direct deposit goes and all of that. Well, if you open a bank account someplace different, maybe online or maybe 20 miles away from where you live. Now, I'm not trying to make it where it's inaccessible. It has to be hard to access, okay? So just because it's hard to access, it's still you still have to be able to access that money somehow. Just not easily, not where it's in the same bank where you can just go there and it's like, oh, you know what? I want to take out money from this account. That way it's separated and you don't have that temptation. That's all it is. It's just trying to keep it separate. Now, if you have any questions or you have any comments, please leave it down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Now, for the fourth one, now you're gonna invest it. When I did mines, I started with a few $100s. I do believe it was like $400 or $500. I mean, I had more than that in the bank account. So what I did was I let it build up first, and then once I do believe it was in around $1,000 or more, I decided to start investing because I had enough to invest. But when I started looking at investments, when I started looking at stocks, because this is where I first started, I was a little nervous on putting all of my money. So what I decided was I took about approximately half of the money, and then that's what I used. I deposited into my account and I started investing. I bought several shares of certain stocks. And once I got used to it, that's when I started depositing more. And then as my bank account grew again, I would take out that money and deposit into my stock account again. And I kept investing it over and over and over again until it grew to a large amount. And for you, you might find $500 might be too little or it might be a lot. So you got to find your comfort level. But as long as you are investing, then you are moving forward. You are moving forward towards your financial independence. So pick a number, whatever you feel comfortable, and just go for it. Now remember, these first four are very important for your financial future. As long as you start doing this now, you're setting yourself up for financial independence because the longer you wait, the less you will have compound interest working on your side. So the sooner you start, you can start building up that compound interest. I do have a video that I talked about that, and I'll leave that up here on the link as well, or down below. Now, the fifth one I want to talk about is eliminating your credit card debt. Now, Dave Ramsey loves to talk about this, so how you should not have any credit card debt. So because this is we tend to spend more when we have a credit card. So let's just say if you didn't have that credit card and there was that brand new TV that you really want, but if you didn't have the cash to pay for it, you wouldn't be able to buy it. However, if you have that credit card, it's so easy to just swipe and you just bought something and now you have to make monthly payments. You are canceling out your growth on your investment. So let's just say you are growing your investments and they're averaging anywhere from 10 to 18, 20%. Well, even though your investments are growing at 20% a year, but now you have your credit card and you're paying 20 to 25% in interest, you're just canceling it out. You're not really growing, you're not really gaining financial independence because of all that expenses. Now, the number 6 money habit is paying off your debt one at a time. Now, why pay it off one at a time is because that is the easiest and most fastest way you can go from having a hard time paying your credit cards to eliminating them once and for all. And how this works is usually the best way is to look for the one with the smallest amount of debt. So let's just say, for example, you have 5 credit cards and you have one that only has $1,000, and maybe the biggest one is maybe 10,000, and then whatever in between. And let's just say your $10,000 credit card is 25% interest, but the other one with $1,000 is only 15%. So interest rate, yes, not naturally we would want to try and pay off the one with the higher interest rate because that one is eating up our money faster. But psychologically, it's harder when when you have to pay for 5 cards at every single month. So instead, you try to pay off the smallest one first, the $1,000. If you can eliminate that, let's just say, for example, you're putting $200 for each one. Well, if you was to reduce the four and maybe just pay $100 each, and then whatever the difference, you're gonna apply it to the smallest amount, the $1,000 debt, then you're able to eliminate that faster. And once you eliminate that, now you can move to the second smallest one. And now you're not going to reduce your amount of payment. So, like the example, we're spending $1,000 every month to pay off our debt. Well, you eliminated one. Now you're not going to reduce it to 800. You're still going to stay at 1,000. You're going to just pay $100 on the other three. And on the fourth one, whatever's extra, which is going to be about $700, you're going to put $700 into the second smallest debt, and then so on and so forth. And you're just going to continue that until you eliminate all your debt. This way, psychologically, you'll feel good because you are knocking them down one at a time, right? You're knocking them off, and now you're getting less and less credit, less and less debt. So number 7 is look at the cost of what you are purchasing. Let's just say you want to purchase an item and it's a want, not a need. So you have to buy, let's just say we'll go back to the TV. You really, really want to buy a new TV because it's a big screen TV and you're tired of looking at your 19-inch or 24-inch TV, which is tiny, and you want to get a 50-inch. Well, it's okay. I'm not saying don't do it, because you do deserve to have some enjoyment in life, right? But what I want you to do is I want you to take a step back and look at how much is that TV. So say, for example, that TV is $500. And let's say you work and you're making, say, for example, $10 an hour. I mean, I'm not saying you make $10 an hour, but I'm just using that as an example. So you make $10 an hour. How many hours does it take for you to work to make $500 so you can purchase that TV? That would be about 50 hours. So more than 1 week's of pay. So you have to work 50 hours. Actually, you have to work more than 50 hours, because you also have to remember now that just because you made $500 in 50 hours doesn't mean that you get $500. You still got to pay for your taxes, right? So you have your federal, state, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever taxes they take out, maybe even your insurance gets taken out of that too. So you really have to look closely on truly how many hours do you have to work to purchase that item. And if you still want to purchase it even after you think about that, then that's fine. So I usually like to wait a day or so if it's something that is not really important. I mean, it's just something that I really want. It's not something that we really need. I usually wait a day or so. That way, at least I can make a good decision if I should purchase that item or not. Now, so say for example, now, instead of that, let's just say we're going out and you're going out to eat. And because you didn't want to cook, you're tired, you didn't want to cook, so you decide, you know what, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go to this restaurant. I'm going to spend, let's say $30. So $30 doesn't sound like a lot. Well, maybe it might sound a lot to some, right? But when you think about it, $30, that means at $10 an hour, you had to work 3 hours. Actually, you have to work 4 hours, because even though you spent $30 on the meal, you had to work 4 hours to make $40. You have to pay taxes on that. And then don't forget, because you ate at that restaurant, you might have to leave a tip. So you're paying a little bit more than $30. So you're working technically about 4. So if you work 4 hours to feed yourself one time, you're really not making money. You're really not saving. You're spending more than what you earn. And then that's when it becomes a problem. Now, the number 8 money habit is shopping with a list. So you must be wondering, wait, shopping with the list, what does this have to do with money habits? Well, have you ever gone to the store and you gone to the store to pick up like maybe a few items that you need, and then you walk out with like $200 worth of all kind of stuff, like maybe groceries, for example. If you went in there with a list, the chances of you buying excessive amount of items will be lessened, right? I mean, you will follow the list. You will go down the list and make sure you cross off everything that you need and get. This way you prevent from forgetting, because sometimes when you go to the store without a list, you went in there to pick up those few items and then you forget one of them, and then now you have to go back again. So you're just wasting time and you spend more money, right? Well, when you have a list, you're going to go down the list. The chances of you missing or forgetting one of those items is highly unlikely. And on top of that, you prevent yourself from overspending, because now you're going to go down the list and you're going to buy all of that. And the chances of you like, oh, maybe I can go do this and maybe I can buy that is highly unlikely. I mean, you'll still pick up a few items. Don't get me wrong. You'll still buy some other stuff. You won't just follow the list to the T unless you're that kind of person. But at the same time, you're not going to be like, oh, maybe I can go cook this, or maybe I can cook that. Or wait, do we still have chicken in the house? Ah, you know what? Let's just buy another one. And come to find out that you have 2 5-pound bags of chicken wings in the back of the freezer or in the bottom of your freezer. I mean, that's speaking from experience, of course, because that's something that I've done in the past. But now I try to have a list. That way I don't miss anything that I need to pick up. Take that into consideration, and maybe that's something that you might want to do. Now, number 9 is eliminate unnecessary subscriptions. So have you ever had like those streaming services and you don't use them anymore, or you hardly use them, or maybe that's all you use now and there's other subscriptions that you're paying that you don't really use? And then let's just say you're paying for a streaming service like $15 a month and you haven't been using it, or you hardly use it. So think about that. $15 a month is $180 in 1 year. That $180 you can invest that on something else. You can save that, and maybe in a few years, $180 you can turn it into over $500, and you can invest that. Maybe even purchase a tax lien or just invest it in some stocks, and you make money. Now, number 10 is starting an emergency fund. Now, this one, I've made a video on this, so I'll post something somewhere up here and on the bottom as well. This one has been controversial because a lot of people will say one thing or another. Some people don't believe in emergency funds and some do. I'm one of those that do believe in emergency fund, because why? That has helped me and my family a lot, especially during these hard times when we had the shutdown and everything. So our business, we weren't earning an income. Luckily, we had our emergency fund that we can dip into, and that helped us out a lot. So some people would say, well, you can just use credit cards and stuff like that, which is fine too. That's actually another way that you can do it, having credit cards as an emergency fund. But when it's time to pay it back, if you don't have the funds to pay it back, then that becomes a big issue, right? Especially if you haven't worked for several months. Where are you going to get that money to pay for that credit card? If you have the emergency fund set up to begin with, then not too bad, right? Because you already have the money there. You already set it up so that way you can have something to fall back on if something were to happen. Versus you going with the credit cards, which is good, but once you use it up, you have to start paying it back. And if you don't have the funds to pay it back, then you're in big trouble. And that's it. That's my 10 money habits that you should start immediately. Now, if you're enjoying this video, please don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you the next time I upload another video. Now, what do you think about these money habits that you should implement today? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. I mean, thank you. If you have something to tell me, or if you have a question, please leave it down in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to look at them, and I'll respond to them as soon as I can. I'd like to say mahalo for watching this video, and remember to always strive for financial independence. And until the next time, aloha.